Behind these doors at the Department of Justice Crime Lab in Richmond, California, forensic investigators solved a landmark cold case that could change the way police investigations are conducted. We went inside for an exclusive look at the new DNA technology that led detectives to an elusive killer dubbed the Grim Sleeper. It was the 1980s. A serial killer was terrorizing South Los Angeles. Most of his victims were young African-American women. Some had been shot with the same .25 caliber firearm. Some had been strangled. Some sexually assaulted. Their bodies dumped in alleys. Over the years, Los Angeles police would follow numerous leads that went nowhere. In 1988, after 8 murders and an attack on a potential 9th victim who got away, the killing stopped. Then, nearly 15 years later, the Grim Sleeper would strike again. Who was he? Where was he hiding? Police would have to wait another 2 decades to find the answers.
We have about 1.5 million samples stored in the laboratory.
A critical piece of the puzzle would be found here, in the 3rd largest DNA repository in the world. California has been collecting DNA from convicted felons since 2004. Police had the serial killer's DNA from the crime scenes. Was it possible it was here as well?
We are on the cutting edge of this technology.
Jill Spriggs, who heads the lab, says forensic scientists recently developed a powerful investigative weapon called the Familial DNA Search Program, computer software that can find similarities between crime scene DNA and the DNA of a convicted felon. If a killer's DNA is not in the database, maybe a relative's is.
It is only convicted offenders that we're comparing to, not arrestees in California.
2 years ago, detectives ran the killer's DNA searching for a link, but no match. Then a major break. Last year, criminalists entered the DNA of a man recently convicted of a felony weapons charge. His name was Christopher Franklin. Months later, detectives ran the Grim Sleeper killer's DNA again for the 2nd time, hoping for a match to a family member. They got it. Detectives zeroed in on Christopher Franklin's father, 57-year-old Lonnie David Franklin, who lived in South Los Angeles within walking distance to one of the victims, 18-year-old Alicia Monique Alexander. At one time, the man described as a polite neighbor, even worked as a garage attendant for Los Angeles police. Detectives were confident they'd found their man. But before they could close in, they would need a sample of his DNA. With Franklin under surveillance, they picked up a piece of uneaten pizza crust, along with some eating utensils. Police sent it all to the lab. Soon after, they say, they had a match between Franklin and the DNA found on victims.
I think going forward, this is going to be a very important investigative tool for police everywhere, where we have a serious crime, where we have no further leads.
As city leaders and Los Angeles police announce what they believe will be the end of the Grim Sleeper's reign of terror, the victims' families cheered. But it was a bittersweet moment for the brothers of 18-year-old Alicia Monique Alexander, who carried her frayed picture for 22 years. Thelma Gutierrez, CNN, Los Angeles.